Hi everyone, welcome to today's tutorial, and today I will be covering two tools, namely the eyedropper tool and the color sample tool. Now these two tools, they do sound a little similar to each other because their functions are a little similar to each other, but they have different functions, right? So I'm going to show you how you can use these two tools in Adobe Photoshop. So before I begin, there's one thing I want to tell you all about the eyedropper tool, right? So if you are familiar with Adobe Illustrator, or if you have used that software to create your illustrations or any type of vector designs, you must have used the eyedropper tool to some point or to a certain extent, right? So the eyedropper tool in that software and the eyedropper tool in Adobe Photoshop is perfectly the same, right? The shortcut key is the same, and how you use that tool here in Adobe Photoshop is the same as well. But in case if you are not familiar with Adobe Illustrator and this is the first software that you are using, I mean Photoshop is the first software that you are learning, that's completely fine, right? So I'm going to teach you how you can use the eyedropper tool in Adobe Photoshop. So once you get familiar with this tool, you can use the same tool in Adobe Illustrator as well, right? Okay, so without further ado, let's dive right in. So as you can see that I have already selected my eyedropper tool right here, and the shortcut key for this tool is the letter I. Alright, so before I begin, I'm going to change my sample size to point sample first, and by this is the default, you will see that sample size is point sample, and over here in the sample over here, I'm going to select current layer. Okay. So I'm going to show you the difference, or like just talk about the difference here first. So the point sample, what this does is that if you choose a particular color of a certain area, the eyedropper tool is going to select the color of that particular point as only, right? So for example, like if I take my mouse over here on this background right here, and I left click on it and I keep holding on to it, you can see that even though you see majority, like the majority of the color here is of a light brown color, it's going to detect different shades right here as I move my cursor around, right? So this is happening, it's fluctuating a lot, it's detecting a lot of different shades of this brown or peach color, is because it's choosing colors point by point, right? So this is more specific, as you can say, and whichever color you think you like best, you want to use it in your you want to save this color and you want to use it in the upcoming illustration you're going to design, you can do that easily, right? So for example, I like this shade of color, right? So if you notice the upper portion of this circle, which has a slightly darker shade of brown, so that's the color we want to use. So just ignore the lower portion of the circle as well. Okay, so I'm going to let go, and you can see that this is the color that has been detected right here. So if I double click on this, right, so this is the foreground right over here. So you can see the RGB and the rest of the settings right here, the RGB and also the percentages in CMYK. And to be a little bit more specific, this hashtag over here, and you see this particular code, that is the color code that you have picked out, right? So I'm going to click on OK, and I'm going to come over here to my swatches, and you can see that this is the latest color that we have just picked out, this one, right? So let me show you how you can use this color again. This tool again, and this time let's choose a different color, right? So I'm just going to move my mouse like this, holding on to the left side of by clicking onto the left side of my mouse, and I'll move it here to this yellow shade right over here. Okay, that's it. And as you can see that this yellow color also gets automatically gets updated over here in this foreground as well. So if I select this again, you can see that the color code is there and the RGB numbers and the percentages in the CMYK is also there. So you can either just directly select this add to swatches color option, or what I do is that it automatically gets selected and it automatically gets updated here in the swatches as well, right? So it's the same yellow color that we had seen, and as you can see, even the RGB, it's showing the RGB values. That's the same yellow color that we had chosen, right? So once that gets selected and once it gets added to your swatches, then of course you can move ahead knowing that all your colors are being saved in the swatches right there. Okay, so now for example, you do not want to select a color point by point, but you want a specific average color used in that particular area, right? So then of course you can change the sample size over here as well, and as you can see, there are a lot of options right here. So the higher value you use, the more area is going to cover, and the average color used in that area is going to be selected. So for example, if I use this 101 by 101 average, so if I move this around, notice that if I move my eyedropper tool around, the color is not being changed. The color is consistent because of the sample size right here. Because since my sample size, the average is 101 by 101 average, is going to cover a bigger size of my portion right here. Similarly, over here, there's very slight changes in the color green as well, like over here. But if you want a little bit more specific, you can decrease the average here as well. So the 5 by 5 will be, as you can see now, you can see that the color, even though it's being consistent in most of the areas, but the color is changing slightly like this. And of course, each of your colors will also be saved in the swatches like that. So over here in the sample as well, so majority of us either work with this option which says current layer, because that's the area or that's the layer we want to work on. That's the layer we want to pick out our colors from, right? So this is what we usually designers use. Okay, so this was the eyedropper tool, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to show you about the color sampler tool, right? So as you can see that the cursor is a lot similar to my eyedropper tool, but it's a little different. So what you can do is that with the eyedropper tool, you can select 4 different areas like this. Unfortunately, you cannot choose more than 4, and you can see right here, this is for, if I move my mouse over here, right, with my first point that I had selected, notice that the first information right over here, the RGB colors and the y-axis and the x-axis, you can see the color code, you can see the RGB values from here, right? Similarly, onto the second one. So you can see how it's changing, right? You can have a look at all the other RGB or the values right over here. So of course you can also move them around if you want, right? But for example, I want to delete a particular point, right? So to do that, I will be holding on to my Alt. So I will be selecting on Alt and then so to delete a particular point, you have to select Alt, and if you look carefully, my cursor gets changed into this scissors like this, and you can just select your point like that. Similarly, if I want to get rid of this point 3, you can see that my mouse gets changed into the scissors because I'm holding on to my Alt button right here and get rid of it like that. So even here in this properties, I'm sorry, not in the properties, in the info, you can see the color codes in this one and the second one right here. And you can see that the CM, YK and their RGB percentages are being changed. So that was about the color sampler tool and the eyedropper tool. So that's pretty much about it. So that's it. So I hope you found this video to be useful, and with a little practice you will soon be more familiar with the eyedropper tool and the color sampler tool. So thank you for watching and stay tuned for more.